Hello and welcome to this session. So if you can hear me, kindly raise up your hand so that we can get started and progress in a structured manner. So if you can hear me, just raise your hand. Good. So I can see quite a number of us raising our hand, Rebecca, Prince, Wabwire, which essentially means that I'm clear and audible on your end. So welcome to this open day that we want to look at this particular course, integrated data analysis, report writing, and findings presentation course for PhD level students. And we are saying incorporating SPSS and Professor Andrew F. Hayes process macro for SPSS. So we need to understand what the course is all about. We need to understand the purpose. We need to understand the logistics, and we need to understand the rationale of what the course is all about. Now, let's start on why it is integrated, right? Let's start on that. Why not have each of these items separately? Because we want to integrate a lot of things together. Typically, you will find that statistics is normally taught distinctly from SPSS, for example, as a software, such that the students would typically have the SPSS class, the statistics class, and then they would later on they would typically have a separate statistics class during the coursework, and then later on, the board of postgraduate could have a session to train on SPSS. And sometimes, if you are very, very lucky, you could find someone taking the students through the process macro for SPSS. So the course is taught in a fragmented way. There is a session for statistics, the people learn the theory, an exam is done, and that's the end of it. Then at a later time, maybe the School of Postgraduate or even an external service provider comes to teach the students on SPSS, mostly not as part of the coursework, mostly as something that is done separately from the coursework. And then sometimes you could find separate sessions, maybe for report writing or for presentation, distinct from SPSS and distinct from the statistics course. So we want to integrate all these things so that we have a holistic picture of what is expected of us. That's why we are integrating. SPSS on its own is not a difficult software to learn because it's just about clicking, the normal clicking that we are already used to when we are using other Microsoft, when we are using Microsoft products. So we are already aware of how to use the mouse and the click function, which we call the graphic user interface. So it's not very difficult to learn. However, you must have some sound statistical understanding so that you are able to utilize it in an efficient manner. So, for example, if you are doing moderation analysis, you must have some foundation of moderation analysis so that you can use it, you can use the SPSS in an efficient manner. So that's why we are integrating. We learn the theory. Once we are done with the theory, we are good in the theory, we understand the concepts, then we execute on the SPSS software. And for us to execute, it means that then we must be able to understand the rationale of how to use SPSS as a software. So we understand the statistics, then we come and utilize SPSS or utilize process macro to be able to do those particular statistical functions. Then, once we have an output, we need to put it on paper, and that's why we have report writing. We need to put it on paper, right? We need to write it down. We need to observe APA as we are reporting statistical findings, because there is a way statistical findings ought to be presented, right? We want to be coherent and logical in the way we are presenting our statistical results, right? And then apart from just presentation, we need to be able to integrate it with the wider literature so that we form a discussion. Because I normally say, if you are in education, for example, or you are in strategic management, you are not a statistician. You are an expert in education. That's what your thesis is all about. So the statistics are as a tool for you to tell that story about education, or for you to tell that story about strategic management. So there must be a way of how we now do our report writing, so that we are able first to report the statistical findings in a manner that someone can follow what we are saying, and then we are able to integrate that findings to the wider literature, who is agreeing with you, who is disagreeing with you, and all those kind of things, right? And then finally, we must be able to articulate, and that's why there's the issue of findings. We must be able to articulate. We must be able to give a rationale as to why we are undertaking this particular procedure. Why, for example, as a PhD candidate, why, for example, will you use process macro to do your moderation analysis? Why not simply do your moderated multiple regression using SPSS? Why go to the Hayes process macro, right? So you need to be able to have a way of articulating the choices that you've made, articulating the results that you have found, articulating the implication of those results to the study that you are doing in education or in strategic management or in marketing or in whatever discipline. So that's why this is an integrated course for us to have, a holistic picture of what it entails. So I'm hoping each one of us has this particular booklet, and I just want us to go very briefly across it so that we understand the course together, and then later on we could have a chance to ask whatever question we may need. So the need for the course I've already mentioned. Number one, inadequate statistical knowledge. Might find a lot of students struggling with the statistical knowledge, either because during the statistics class, maybe it was done a long time ago, because you finish your coursework and then you're writing your thesis. Maybe it has taken you 2 years or 3 years or 4 years. So it's taken you a while from when you did your statistics course, right? Challenges linking theoretical statistical concepts in a class setup to the practical data analysis. I have always held the view that apart from knowing the statistics, if at a point in time someone could come with a thesis that has now used, let's say, regression analysis, and the students then are able to follow, okay, why did we do regression analysis in this particular thesis, for example? Then we're able to look at the questionnaire. We're able to ask ourselves, for example, what is the level of measurement that we have in these questions? And then the student is able to see, for example, the rationale that led to the choice of a particular statistical procedure. So the student is able to see the choices how one item led to another item, and so on and so forth. Choices, challenges, choosing appropriate statistical tests, right? And test statistics to be able to do your hypothesis testing. Challenges with certain statistical procedures. Right now, when you look at a lot of theses at PhD level, students now are being encouraged, apart from doing the basics that have always been there. A lot of theses you'll find there is, of course, the mean, standard deviation, frequencies, then maybe correlation analysis, linear regression. So a lot of theses in social sciences have that. But if you look at the theses that are being done right now, right? If you look at the theses that are being done right now. Okay. There's someone saying they are not able to see this. Let me try resharing, and we see whether we have a better view. I'm hoping, I don't know whether this is a better view. Let's hope so. But nevertheless, each one of us has this. Each one of us has these each one of us has this particular draft, right? So we are saying, when you look at the current thesis in social sciences, right? There is a demand for the PhD candidates, especially, to be able to push themselves to do to look at complex relationships between their variables. And right now, when you look at a lot of them, you will see there is issues of moderation analysis, issues of mediation analysis coming out very strongly in those theses. So you must have some exposure into these statistical procedures, so that when you are now working on your draft, you can be able to see whether it is a procedure that you want to incorporate in your thesis. We then have the issues of mastery of the statistical software, right? And that's why in this particular course, we are going to learn the basic of SPSS. The SPSS is normally the starting point, right? To be able to know how to use SPSS. And then because we also want to do moderation analysis and mediation analysis using the latest way of doing it, then we shall also learn on the process macro, Hayes process macro for SPSS. All right? So we shall know on how to do the normal moderation analysis on moderated multiple regression, but then we shall also be able to do the process macro, and we shall be able to compare the outputs of MMR done on SPSS and the Professor Andrew Hayes process macro to do moderation. We shall also do the Baron and Kenny 1986 on SPSS, and we shall also try to do mediation again using the process macro, because right now the expectation would be, because this is where the knowledge is, the expectation would be that the PhD student in 2024 is at a bare minimum, if they are doing moderation analysis, mediation analysis, it's at a bare minimum to be in a position to do the process macros, right? The other challenge we'll be trying to address is the communication challenges in writing and defending statistical results, which comes to the mastery. You must, you cannot articulate what you don't understand. You must be able to understand the statistical procedures and the rationale of the choices being made and why you've made them in respect to your thesis, for you to be able to communicate, to articulate And I normally say in respect to these defenses, that if you can't articulate yourself, we might confuse that for you not knowing. We might think you don't know. But maybe it is the communication challenge. It is English failing you. It is how to communicate to the third party failing you. It's how you put your writing in the document, the statistical finding, how you've expressed them in your document, such that when we now look at your work, we now think that you don't know, but maybe you already know, but the presentation is not okay. Right? Then we have the primary target group for this particular course. So we've indicated it is for all the PhD students, but then we've said the following categories will find it particularly useful. Why is it for all PhD students? Because at the end of the day, these are skills that you need. But then we are saying the people that are at a data analysis stage, then this would be very useful to them. The student hoping to commence their data analysis either within this year or next year, this course would be good for them. The people that are the students that have already done their proposal, all right? And you need to, in your chapter 3, you've already indicated the data analysis, techniques and tools and whatever that you need to use. And those are the things that you need to defend so that you tell your panelists, why do you want to do a linear regression, for example, right? So the students that are preparing their defenses for your research methodology or for your research proposal, right? Student undertaking data analysis, statistics course, student in their data analysis defenses. So those particular students, then we are saying that's the primary target group of this particular course. The course is for 8 months, so it's a very lengthy course, right? Because we want to do a competency-based curriculum. We want also for you to do the exercises, and we discuss the output of those practices that you do. Because if you are taught statistics without interacting with SPSS, you must be given a task that you do. That's what competency means. For you to say you are competent, you must do it. You can't cram. It is not history. There's no cramming. It's understanding and being able to do. And that's why it's going to take some long time, because if we train about mediation analysis, you must be able to do, you must be given tasks to be able to do mediation analysis, get the outputs, analyze the output, do a report. Then we can say reasonably you are competent, right? So we've said all PhD candidates, this would be a good course. And then there are all those that we've mentioned. There's also the secondary target group, right? So university lecturer supervising PhD students might find, the ones who want to retool might find it useful. Master of Philosophy students might find it useful, and any other person who could be interested in gaining the skills. We then have the course structure. How are we going to undertake it? And we have 4 components. Number 1 is the blended learning approach. Blended means that we shall have the online, the e-learning. I know most of you already know that ours has e-learning, and I know some of you have been able to learn using the e-learning. Our e-learning, we have loaded the materials. That's what happens in e-learning. We've loaded the videos so that you can play and replay. And the videos that we want to load on e-learning, we normally follow what we call micro-teaching, so that we are able to teach one concept at a time. So these are short videos, 15, 20 minutes long, that you should be able to watch over and over again so that you get the concept that you are interested in. And for those members that access the e-learning, then you will have access to those videos for up to 8 months from when you subscribe, right? Then we shall be having Zoom sessions. What are the Zoom sessions for? It is for us to revise what is already on e-learning. So normally we will be using our Zoom session to revise, to ask questions, to interact, to look at the exercises that you've been given, because these exercises, you are expected to tackle them. So when you tackle them on your own, then we will need to discuss the results so that we can be able to see where was the challenge and so on. And when we have a Zoom, we record and we also put it back to the e-learning. So in the e-learning system, you are going to see two broad categories of videos. There will be those videos that are custom made for e-learning. So they were already recorded for e-learning, and those are normally very short videos and very structured, right? So that's the first category of videos that you're going to see on the e-learning. Then every time we have a Zoom session like this one, we are going to also record and put, and the ones we record like now will often be lengthy videos because it is 1 hour, 1 hour and a half, 2 hours, whatever the time frame could be. So those are the two levels. Then part of the course structure is suggested reading texts. So you will find I've already incorporated them here. The materials that you are supposed to read. Because remember we said for you to articulate, you must be knowledgeable. So apart from what we are going to formally learn, there are also suggested reading tests that you can read to get more knowledge on whatever particular items we are discussing. So they've already been pre-selected for that particular purpose. Right? Then, because it is competency-based, we must be able to do practical exercises, and we will see them in this workbook. So each one of you is expected to have printed this particular workbook, right? And then once you know, we will then have sessions where we can look at other verses and see how did they do their regression, how did they do their correlation, how did they do their moderation analysis, and you can be able to undertake critical appraisal to critique the choices they've made, the rationale that they've used, how they've presented their data, and then you'll be able to say whether you are in agreement with them or you are in disagreement, whether they are best practices you can pick, or whether there are places that you could have advised them to approach the issue differently. Right? Then, course enrollment, how to enroll. So for those of you who want to self-enroll, so the steps are there on how you can be able to enroll on the e-learning system and make up your payments, and the course is auto-allocated for you. So the cost implication, so we had an early payment, so that's already done, which was at 120 USD. We have the normal payment, which is at 200 USD. So this is where we are. Now, in the groups that we have formulated, our members have been able to negotiate for group payments because of the economy, right? Apparently, across Africa, the exchange rate of the local currency to US dollar is a little bit, harsh across Africa, whether you're talking about Kenya, whether you're talking about Nigeria, whether you're talking about Zambia. So that seems to be the problem across board, right, in terms of the exchange rate. So what members decided to do in those groups is to be able to negotiate for group rates, so that we can be able to say we will get to these numbers, and the number that had been pegged for members now to start accessing the group rate was 15. And for 15, the members were able to negotiate up to 50 USD. So from 200 USD, so we are at 50 USD for the members that are now joining as a group. And I'll be able to give you a link for those of you in the WhatsApp group for data analysis. That is what is now expected of each member that will be in this particular course to undertake the group payment that is at 50 USD. Right? The ones that don't want to be in a group, because it's not a must you be in a group. You can also decide you want to be alone. Then you can be able to take your normal payments at 200 using these particular steps. The ones that are doing group rate, I'm giving them a link or ways in which each one of them can be able to pay, so that if you are in Kenya, 50 USD is about 8,025 shillings. Then I have given my M-Pesa number, for example. You can be able to make your payments there, for example, and I'm able to manually load the cost. The members going this route, they don't even need to contact me, because all they need to do is to go to the system, make their payment, and auto-enroll themselves without involving me. But for the members that are now doing the manual, the group rates, the manual payments, then I need to be able to incorporate the cost to them manually. Good. So let's look at the modules that we shall be having. Right? So we have our module number one is being able to collect our data. So the questionnaire design and how to deploy. Then we shall move to SPSS and Hayes process macros for SPSS, which will become our module two. Then we need to learn about hypothesis testing, right? Whether we are talking about Fisher or we are talking about Neyman, hypothesis testing criteria. Principal component analysis is another module, for dimension reduction, where we can talk about factor loading, agent values, KMO, and so on, communalities, and so on, right? Correlation analysis, another module. So these ones, you typically find them in a lot of social sciences, linear regression analysis, moderation analysis, mediation analysis, and finally, we shall be able to look at report writing and finding presentation. That will be our module number 9. Right? So it's going to have 9 modules, as I have mentioned, and we can very briefly go through what is to be presented in each of those particular modules. Questionnaire design, how to design your questionnaire, the issues of levels of measurement in those questions that you have, right? Issues of reliability, if you want to do internal consistency, right? Cronbach alpha, what happens when Cronbach alpha fails, internal consistency fails. We have the issues of item total statistics and so on. So those are the things we shall be able to look at these in this particular module, right? We've also, the learning objectives are there. We've also given, so key concepts have been mentioned there. Let me discuss about where to get the book. So you can see suggested reading text, all right? And you see textbooks available at authors.com repository. And I want us to go there. So if you go to authors, what will be expected of you? It is expected that you're able to go to the e-repository. You are able to Google, you're able to use the search bar to look for these materials. Then you download them on your end, right? And then you are able to read those particular you're able to look at those particular books, right? So when you go to aosas.com, this is the homepage, then you can click on e-repository. It's on the menu. You can click on the e-repository and it opens up our repository, right? Then you can come and look for this book. You can come and get this book. And it's not just this book, you can get other books. So this is just what I have suggested, but it doesn't mean that you can't get other books. So there are still other books that you can be able to get on e-learning, right? I think we've made it very long. Let's just maybe write questionnaires. Good. So you can see when we do questionnaires, you get all the questions, all the books with questionnaire, but which ones are we interested? We are interested in this one, asking questions, the definitive guide to questionnaire design and so on. So what do? You click on it. So this is a book that has been suggested for you. You click on it, click on the link. It takes you here, for those of you who have not used a repository before, then you click on this link. And you can see it is downloading. And here it is, let's see. So we are expected to get both of these books that we are going to use for this particular module. We are going to use for this particular module. So by now, it is expected the members that are undertaking this particular course, it is expected that you've already started downloading these books and you've already started looking at them and what they constitute or the content in them. So I just want us to open this, saying my internet connectivity. I think it's because I'm doing so many things at the same time. But let's hope it opens up. Good. And there it is. So it has opened up. So you get this particular book, Asking Questions, the definitive guide to questionnaire design for market research, political poll, social and health questionnaire. So it's a very good book. You need just to learn a little bit of the issues that have been explored into the book in respect to how to design your questionnaire, the kind of questions to ask, issues of sensitivity, threatening questions about behaviors, questions about attitude. So it guides you on how to set up your questionnaire, right? And then there's also the other book. So you do the same thing in respect to coming up or downloading this material. So for every module, it's going to have suggested reading tests that have been pre-selected to guide you on how to structure your, on how to tackle that particular module. And then we would have a practical exercise. And then we are saying for the critical thesis examination, this is something that is going to be sent by what? Will be sent by the e-learning system automatically to your email address. So let's look at SPSS. So the second module, we are saying it is SPSS. So some of the typical things we are going to learn is on issues of variable view, data view, how to code our data into SPSS, reverse coding, multiple response coding, issues of extracting your reliability, the internal reliability, and being able to do all these many statistical procedures that we've discussed. How to do your moderation analysis, how to do your mediation analysis, correlation, factor analysis. So all these many statistics that we are talking about, we'll be able to understand on how to do them on SPSS, right? And then for the purposes of mediation and moderation, we shall also be able to understand Hayes process macro. As I have mentioned right now, for someone at PhD level, because we also want to demonstrate our deep knowledge of the current statistical tools and procedures, then the expectation is that you can also be able to do the Hayes process macro. And in any case, when you look at the Hayes process macro, it simplifies the moderation analysis. It simplifies the moderation analysis. Then you're also able to do what we call probing of moderation, and we shall be able to see it down as we progress. So that becomes your module number 2. And once now so these are the things that I have mentioned. I think I have mentioned all these many things, what to expect. Then again, there are books that you've been given there. Suggested reading text. So SPSS for Dummy, right? And SPSS Survival Manual. So these are a very good book. This second book even has exercises that you can tackle. Remember, in CBC, you are encouraged beyond what the teacher is saying, beyond what the facilitator is mentioning, you're also expected to explore. Because even when we do this course, we are not going to tackle every single thing in statistics, right? You're just going to be exposed. So you're going to be given foundational knowledge, and you are now expected also to explore. So this is a very, very good book because it has both the knowledge, the literature, and then it also has additional exercises that you can be able to undertake, right? Then each one of you will be expected to do these exercises. For you to be able to say that you are good, at a bare minimum, to be expected to undertake this particular exercise. Just to be able to code, to do reverse coding. We all understand why we'll be able to understand why we need to do reverse coding, to be able to undertake your Cronbach alpha coefficient and item total statistics for your variables, right? And then again, a thesis will be sent your way. Hypothesis testing, that is one of the critical things in respect to any statistical procedure. So you will normally keep on talking about hypothesis testing, all right? So we'll be able to understand the normal things, null hypothesis, alternative hypothesis, p-values, level of significance, test statistics, and so on, all right? And then we shall explore the two ways of hypothesis testing, either using R.A. Fisher. We've always heard of Sir Fisher, right? Who was a British statistician, right? So we will look at whatever he was proposing on how to do hypothesis testing, and then we also look at the Neyman-Pearson. So we are all aware we have the Karl Pearson, and this is the son to Karl Pearson. So this is not Karl Pearson. This Pearson here is not Karl Pearson, is the son to Pearson. So there's a father and son statistical professors or statistical experts that were there maybe in the 20s or 30s and so on. So we'll be able to see the two different ways of looking at hypothesis testing, and then you'll be able to see which direction do you want to take for you as a researcher, so that as you are presenting your work, there is consistency in the way you presented your work, right? Then again, core books have been given. So one of the core book is being sold. This is a book that I have authored, so it is something you might want to consider purchasing. Or if you find yourself squeezed for money, right? It's at 5 USD. If you find yourself squeezed for money, then you can be able to get this other additional book for free. So this one is on our e-learning. This one is on the site itself. So let's go there and we see on how to look at it or to achieve it. So when you go to the website, aosas.com, then you get to ebooks. You will find books that have been done by African scholars for Africa, right? And what happens is these books are a little bit customized, are a little bit easy to understand because they've been written for with the demographic here. So you will find, for example, all these books, you can see them. The e-learning will change this to either USD or to the local currency. So for people in Kenya, they can be able to buy in Kenya shillings. Members in Ghana, in Rwanda, in Uganda, Ghana, can be able to purchase in their local currency using local payment infrastructure. For the rest of the members, it's going to display in USD, right? And then you can be able to purchase that in USD. So the books are there. So we have one for linear regression that is simply trying to teach or to explain linear regression geared towards that person who is writing a thesis in social sciences. So what I have tried to do in these 3 books, so we have one for linear regression mediation analysis, and we have another one for moderation analysis, is to try to simplify the statistical concept for non-statistician. Is to try to simplify for non-statistician, right? That is doing, let's say, something in education or something in business and so on. So you try to make it simpler, and then you don't teach the statistics in a vacuum. So that's what we've done in this book. So you're able to show someone, it is this, for example, research objectives. We had this kind of research objective. We presented it in this particular way in our conceptual framework. We had this kind of questionnaire. We had structured our question in this particular manner. It gave us this kind of levels of measurement. Therefore, we decided we need to do linear regression. This is the output. This is how you write it, and so on. Right? So for those purchasing the books, then you need to say add to cart. These are ebooks, so they are available for sale across Africa. So as I have mentioned, if you are squeezed for money, there's still another book that you could find it useful, right? Called Essentials of Statistics for Behavioral Sciences. And also nothing stops you having both. Remember, as I have also mentioned, there are also other books. So these are not the only books. There are also other books in our e-repository. I don't know how many of us are using the e-repository, because we have about 1,849 books that you can be able to download and be able to utilize them on your own. All right. And they've already been segregated into various subsections: books for research method, books for research software, books for statistics and data analysis. So the materials are there, right, that you can be able to undertake. Then once you are done with the learning, there's going to be a practical, item that you need to undertake for you to be able to see, to get yourself on where you are. And it is these exercises that we shall be most of the time exploring when we meet. Factor analysis, principal component analysis. So we are all aware that sometimes we might have very lengthy questionnaires. So the PhD candidate, for example, maybe has done 12, maybe 15 questions, right? And we want to do what we call dimension reduction. So one of the things, for those of you with very lengthy questionnaires, so one of the things that you could do so that you eliminate some of the questions that are not contributing much is to do a principal component analysis, and we shall be able to see the issues of the role, the criteria, the KMO to see whether it meets the criteria for us to do our principal component analysis. The issues of agent values, the issues of factor loading, issues of communality, so that again, we understand what we want to achieve. Good. Then I think I have mentioned the components, understanding PCA, assessing data suitability, KMO. We've all heard about KMO. And there is also a test of syphilicity that we shall be examining, right? Variance and all those communalities, agent values, I think I've mentioned about them. Issues of factor loading and the threshold that are required for factor loading, right? And that's where now statistics, sometimes maybe people might feel at this point now, they've started proper statistics. So again, suggested written test, and by now we know where to get these materials, and there's a test again to be done. Correlation analysis, I don't want us to spend a lot of time here. I know most of you, even at bachelor level and master's level, have gone through correlation analysis. So that one we can move a little bit faster, right? Linear regression analysis. So we shall be able to examine issues of R square, adjusted R, F-test, T-test, and standardized beta coefficients, right? What they are and how we use them, and so on in our research, right? So that becomes module number 6. So for a lot of theses in in social sciences, typically you will find they have linear regression analysis. So we shall spend time there, simple multiple linear models and so on. Again, core book, one of the book is, I've written one of the book, A Guide to Linear Regression Analysis in thesis writing for social sciences. So as I have mentioned, I have tried to simplify, all right? I've tried to simplify the concepts so that you understand it a little bit better and see how it works. Then there's also a book by Hayes. Hayes is one of the most prominent statisticians right now across in the globe on issues of moderation analysis. And we all know moderation analysis, mediation analysis is also, they also utilize regression analysis concept. So Hayes is very good, maybe a little bit heavy, right? So what I normally advocate for all of you, what I would advocate for is that each one of you gets a copy of this, gets to understand what I have said, then tries to read what Hayes is saying. So that here you get the foundation. We normally say the baby cannot start running before they know how to crawl and walk. They must first know how to crawl and walk, then now they can run. So I normally advocate, even in issues of mediation and moderation and regression, that if you can, you're able to get my book, be able to familiarize yourself with the concept, in a very simplified way. And then once you're done, you can now try to read Hayes and Darlington and find out what additional things they are saying. And you find that way, it becomes a little bit easier. And you don't get discouraged on issues to do with statistics. Okay. So again, there's a very lengthy exercise that you now need to undertake so that now you can be able to demonstrate that you understand, for example, what is ANOVA. You understand how to use those F statistics table. We've seen all those tables with very many numbers in there. You can be able to get your critical value there and come and look at the observed F statistics, be able to compare, be able to make your hypothesis testing, right? And on the other hand, you can be able to use your P values, right? So there's a whole test, there's a whole exercise there that now shows you what you need to do. And you'll be using what? You'll be using SPSS. So by now, you are expected, you can be able to undertake a regression analysis on your own on SPSS. And then once you are done, you can be able to undertake the write-up and be able to interpret the statistical results that comes from it. Then we move to moderation analysis, right? And in moderation analysis, we shall want to understand, the basis in which we want to do the analysis. Then we understand the effects. We understand the effects, right? Interaction effects, conditional effect, main effect. So there's a lot of effects there. We understand moderated multiple regression to undertake this, right? We shall also understand on whether to use 2 models or to use 3 models, and whether it actually even matters whether you use 2 models or 3 models as you are doing your hierarchical regression. Because remember, in moderated multiple regression, we shall be able to do hierarchical regression, right, with several models and be able to compare the changes in R square as you are progressing from one model to another model. Right? We shall also look at the issue of bootstrapping. Shall look at the issues of bootstrapping in respect to hypothesis testing for this moderation analysis. And we shall ask ourselves, whether there is any gain for us to do the bootstrapping procedure, maybe with 5,000 samples or with 10,000 samples or whatever the sample size is, the K numbers that we are interested in, right? Then we shall understand on how to do moderation analysis on SPSS and how to use the Hayes process macro for SPSS to do the same procedure, right? Good. So someone is asking what is bootstrapping, and those are the things we shall be learning. But in a nutshell, bootstrapping is about resampling so that you get a better test statistics score. Let me give you an example so that we understand some of the things we try to do with bootstrapping, or maybe the rationale for it. Now, remember when you did your O levels, or you did your secondary school level examination, waiting to go to the university, right? So there's this one exam you need to do, and this one exam determines your fate as to whether you're going to join the university or not. Let's assume by bad luck, you tensed up as you are doing that exam. So you are ordinarily a very good student, but you tensed up during that period. So what happens? It means that an ordinarily very good student who was maybe previously getting an A, something could happen to them during the examination period, right? And now they get a B plus or they get a B. So they didn't perform as good as we expected, but they've been performing very well. So now, if this was an A student and they got a B, is it fair to them? Would we think that is fair to them? The answer maybe would be no. We could say if this candidate was given a second chance, he's going to do it, he's going to do a better job. So if he does a second exam and we, for example, average the scores, so he does another exam and we average the score, then this average is a better representation of the intellect of this student. But suppose he does this exam so many times, let's say 10,000 times. So because you've done it so many times, there are days that you'll be tense, there are days that you are going to be okay, there are days, as you are undertaking these exams so many times. But the nutshell is, as you undertake it so many times, it now approaches your true intellect of this student. In other words, the A student, that person who was ordinarily an A student, if he repeated this university exam so many times, it's going to bring out their true value. They are going to gravitate towards an A. Right? On the same metric, the one that was ordinarily a B student, that's where they've been their entire secondary school. But during the exam, something favored them. Maybe there was a leakage, so something favored them, and they now got an A, which was a one-off. It was a one-off score. If you repeated these exams so many times, these candidates will move from that A and go to their true value, which is a B. That's what you are trying to do. So in bootstrapping, we resample. It's actually a resampling. It is a resampling. It's a resampling technology or a strategy, not technology, but strategy, right? And we shall spend time on that. So let's not go into deeper of it, but we shall spend time in that so that we understand the rationale and we compare when we have bootstrapping and when we don't, and we see whether it's making value. But it is simply a resampling strategy, so that in most of the time, you'll be told you have a target population, right? And you want to draw a representative sample, right? And to draw this representative sample, you will need to do randomization. We all understand the issues of randomization. You will need to do a randomization. You will need a randomization strategy, right? And then you draw a random sample, for example, without replacement, so that as a researcher, maybe your target population was 200, then you want a sample of, let's say, 120. So you do, because you want a representative sample, there must be some randomization. So maybe you do simple random sampling, for example, right? You get your 120, right? So when we are doing bootstrapping, we'll be getting other samples of 120, sample size of 120 from this member that you have initially gotten, right? From these members that you have initially gotten, you will now get another sample, another random sample, but this time with replacement, so that a member can be gotten twice. So you're going to get other samples, which we call the K samples, right? With 120 members, for example. And these K samples could be 10,000 samples, 5,000 samples, and so on. And then you use that for the purposes of creating your confidence levels, and you're able to look at some of those kind of things. So not to worry, those are some of the things we shall dig deeper into them. For those of you who could be able to purchase my book, I've covered issues of bootstrapping very well in that book for, let me see whether I can trace it. In that book for mediation analysis, bootstrapping is covered in detail. So for those of you who will purchase the book, then those are things you can check. But for now, I want us just very briefly to demonstrate that. A moment as I look for that particular section. Good. So I hope we can see this. I hope we can see this. So this is an example of a bootstrap, what we call bootstrapping. So you have, let's say, a target population with 6 members, member 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, for example, right? You draw a random sample, let's say with 4 members. So you had 1 to 6, so the members now are 2, 1, 6, 4. So this is randomly, right? And this is without replacement. So there's no replacement. Without replacement means any of the member of the target population can only appear once in this random sample, right? Then you do the bootstrap. So this bootstrap, you will see the sample size is 4, is similar to this random sample, right? And this bootstrap is coming from this membership. The membership of the bootstrap are from these members of the random sample. However, they can be with replacement. And that's why you are seeing some of the members have been replaced because there is with replacement. Right? Not to worry, we shall spend some time on that and what it entails and things like that. But in a nutshell, that's what bootstrapping essentially entails. And we shall be able to do the MMR, the moderation analysis on SPSS, and be able to look at it also on process macro, be able to look at issues of grand mean centering, and so on and so forth as we run. Good. Then, of course, books that you can learn. So I've said that once you read my book, you can then now try to read what Hayes has said. It's a little bit heavy, but it's an extremely very good book because, as I have mentioned, Hayes is the world's topmost statistician right now on matters mediation and matters moderation. We also have Joseph, who has done a book on mediation. We also have other scholars like Amanda and so on that are also coming up on issues of moderation. But a majority of those were PhD students for Hayes. So, for example, Amanda was a PhD student for Hayes. So, a lot of students, a lot of past students for Hayes now have also now started, doing moderation on their own or becoming expert on issues moderation. But a majority of them are students of Hayes. Good. And then here we have, because this is going to be heavy, right? This is going to be heavy. This is going to be heavy in terms of undertaking the statistical procedure. And as I've mentioned, my book is available on this book. Someone is asking where to get this book. This book is already available on our e-learning. So when you go to aosas.com, you can be able to purchase it for 5 USD or the local currency equivalent. So when you go to our website, aosas.com, then you click on ebooks, you will find it there and you can be able to purchase it. So when you come here to ebooks, you will find it there and you can be able to purchase. So there's going to be an exercise that teaches you or that tests all those many things we've said, whether it is bootstrapping or process macro or grand mean centering, all those many things that we've learned, creating interaction effect, 2 models and 3 models, hierarchical regression. So all those many things will be taught or you'll be tested here. So you will need to undertake this particular, you'll be given an SPSS file, which will be also emailed by the e-learning system. So that's for someone who is already enrolled, right? Then you will need to undertake this exercise. For you to say now you are good in moderation analysis, once you undertake this exercise and you've been able to successfully undertake it, then we'll say you have a good grasp of moderation analysis, right? So it's already put there, so we can all print and see what it entails. So fairly lengthy. Issues of Johnson-Neyman, probing of the moderation. Right now, at PhD level, again, you are expected to do probing of moderation so that you see if you found a statistically significant influence of M on XY relationship, XY causal relationship. So if there was a statistical significance, does that hold for all values of M, right? So those are issues of probing. Good. Then again, mediation analysis. We've all heard of Baron and Kenny, 1986, and we shall be able to look at that. We shall be able to critique it, right? And see whether if we do a joint test of significance, whether it's a better approach from what Baron and Kenny proposed. We shall look at issues of Sobel test, issues of bootstrapping again, and we ask ourselves whether on all these many things there is improvement in the accuracy of the mediation analysis as we are undertaking it. So quite a lot of things to be learned there. SPSS again, process macro again, bootstrapping, as I have mentioned, coming out very strongly, and how to essentially use it. So Baron and Kenny, 1986, four-step process, hypothesis testing. So these are the many things we shall learn. A guide to mediation analysis. So I've already shown us where to get that book. And then the book by Hayes is there. And then there is, of course, the practical exercise. All right. So issues of difference of coefficients, product of coefficients, and be able to find out which way to go. Do you want to use difference of coefficients in undertaking your hypothesis testing, or products of coefficients? And we shall be able to understand what those are. Issues of total effect, indirect effect, direct effects, and so on, right? So we shall look at all those many things. Test of joint significance, right? Consistent, inconsistent mediation. We shall look at those dynamics and so on. Good. Then finally, report writing so that we are APA compliant, and then we are also able to represent our data in coherent way, in a logical way. We are able to articulate the findings and so on, and do a very proper discussion and so on. So this is what the course is all about, right? As I've mentioned, it is an 8-month long course because of the many, many dynamics that we need to undertake in this particular course. So by now, the expectation is I'll be able to interact with all of you in the course of the 8 months, right? We've said the course is at 200 USD. I've also mentioned that right now the members have already agreed that they want to pay as a group so that we bring down the unit cost, and a rate has been agreed because people have been able to join up, and we are saying right now for this particular cohort the match that is required is 50 USD, or the local currency equivalent for those people who are paying using their local payments in Kenya, for example, in Kenya shillings, in Ghana, in cedis, and so on, right? So do take opportunity of this particular stage that we are in, right? Because now the members will be paying it individually. When now, for example, we are not taking the course. Remember, the course is always there on e-learning. It is not a matter it's not a must you take it when we have an intake. You can also take it at any other time. The only advantage is like now the members taking it now can be able to get some of these discounts, for example, that we are talking about. Someone is also asking on how to get the process macros, right? Someone is even asking what the process macro is all about. It's something you add up on SPSS. It's an add-on on SPSS. It's something that has been added on SPSS. So for example, if you look at my SPSS, if you come down here on SPSS and you go to analyze, you will see under regression, there's this one, process macro version 4.2 by Andrew F. Hey, so it's something that has been added on SPSS. It's not there by default. So when you have an SPSS software, you're not going to see it unless you add it into your SPSS. So it's going to be demonstrated on how to add it. So it's part of somewhere along the way when we are learning about SPSS, we'll be able to see how did we add it so that we have it at that particular point. Good. So that's about the course. I could take questions now for those of you with questions. So you can be able to raise your hand. So someone is asking what's the cost of the books. The books are at 5 USD, right? Or local currency equivalent. Someone is asking whether we have hard copies. No, we don't have hard copies of the books. Okay. Good. I don't know that there is any arising questions. Any arising questions before we come to a pause on this particular presentation?
Good afternoon, Prof.
How are you, Nosia?
Fine, and how are you? You know,
You're
like you
good?
said, there are people are not familiar with statistics and so on. So how
Yes.
easy will it be for us to learn? Because statistics is not easy.
No, that's essentially why we have the course. The course, essentially, when you look at what we are trying to do, I know sometimes it looks scary because of all these many terminologies and so on. But in essence, what we shall be trying to do is to make it easy, right? Is to make it easy for the social scientists. Is to make it easy for the social scientists. The people who are doing statistics as a course, they know a lot of these things because they are statisticians, right? But the people in social sciences, they are experts in strategic management. Right? They are experts in marketing. They are experts in education. They are experts in all these many ideas or many disciplines. That's what they are. So we'll be trying to simplify, because at the end of the day, even when you are in education, you are still expected to know some of these things. That's the thing. You are still expected to know some of these things. So we will really try to simplify, but at the end of the day, the key thing is to enable that person in social sciences, because the course is for social scientists, people in social sciences. The statisticians or the people in the school of math, more or less, most of the time they know this, unless they want now to do what? They want now to be able to upgrade or upskill their skill set. And then the other thing we've tried to do is to make it a fairly lengthy course. That's why it's 8 months, so that to enable us to examine this concept in a fairly slow way, without having to, speed up, so that people are able to learn the concept. Good.
Hello, Prof.
Hello. How are you, Alfred?
I'm asking, you are talking about group. If you are in a group, you can actually get a discounted cost. What is the minimum number of people per group?
Now, what has happened is that we already have existing groups that have already met the minimum requirement. This is the thing, this is the idea of a group, so that we understand where we are going to. Whenever we have this course, normally, as a service provider, you must be able to get a certain minimum number of people for you now, for it to even make sense in terms of the resources you are going to dedicate and the time that you're going to sort of dedicate. All right. So the agreement was that if we are able to get at least a minimum of 15 people, then a minimum collectively, a minimum of 15 people, then the cost can go down from 200 USD to 150, can go down from 200 to 50 USD, and that has been achieved. So all we now need to do, the members that are here, is to be able now to make your individual payment at 50 USD individually. Not, you don't need to join any other group. Individually is to make your, because a threshold, a certain threshold has been met, and the threshold was we need to meet at least 15 people taking either of the courses. Remember, the same case like now when you're in a university setup and they launch a PhD course, for example, they'll normally say maybe they want a minimum of 5 students, right? Because if they get 1 student and then they need to allocate trainers and allocate resources, and with just 1 student or 2 students, then for this 1 student, it becomes very expensive for the university to be able to dedicate resources to them. But once they achieve a certain quorum, let's say 5 students, then it's easy for the university now to be able to do that. So we've been able to achieve that. So each one of us, all it's expected of them is to do their individual 50 USD. And then, as I have mentioned, in local currencies, for some of the people, they can pay in local currency. So for the Kenyans right now, it is at 8,000. The 50 USD is around 8,020 shillings thereabout for Ghanaians. So there's some costing I'm going to give into the main group for data analysis, right? Good. Then someone is asking duration of the course, 8 months. You shall have access to the e-learning, to the materials on e-learning for 8 months, all right? Someone is asking VAF for mediation analysis. Let's discuss these technical things when we start now the actual lesson, so that today we handle the logistical issues and then we're able to go on like that. Duration of the course, 8 months. Good. I think I've been able to address all the issues. Someone is saying I'm not in a group, so I've mentioned you can be able to do, each one of us can be able to do their own individual payments. Someone is saying I'm not in a group, where to join. So I'm still going to send that link on the main groups. I'm going to send the link, right? For the data analysis, there's a data analysis subgroup, right? So I'm going to send that, and then each one of us just needs to make their payments individually, the 50 USD, and then you need to give me your email address so that on the back end, then I'm able to allocate you the cost. Then what shall happen is, once we are done with issues of course registration today, next Saturday we shall now meet only the participants of this course, only the participants of this course. And there's also another course for writing, for those of you who are also writing the data, the research proposal. There's also another course that's still going for the 50 USD. So we shall meet now the participants, so that now we see how to navigate the e-learning system, right? We see where we will be accessing these Zoom sessions. We see how the events shall be. So we settle down on the logistical issues, the events, and so on, so that we are able to move in a structured manner. So we shall do that next Saturday, only for the members now that will have paid for the course. Yes, Mahama? You can unmute yourself.
Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Hello, Prof.
Hello, how are you?
I'm fine. They're prepared people. You know, most of your model, your books, we cannot be printed, and some of us we need to emboss this. At times difficult just reading, but if it could be printed, even you'll be very grateful for that particular thing. This is your friend Muhammad. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you on that. Now I'm exploring that particular option. There's a reason why we don't print. Let me tell you. Let me explain why nowadays I'm not very keen on selling or having my books on hard copy. one of my earliest book that I did on research methods apparently became, fairly a good read. And what happened is that on the first week, which it was on the market, right? On the first week, that's the first week when the book was in the market, the book was being printed en masse by students. So one lecturer went somewhere and said, oh, this is a very good book. This is a very good book on research methodology. And what now the student did, the entire postgraduate student did, was to get the book and photocopy en masse. So everybody now had a copy. So you sold one copy, you've taken 2 years to write the book, you sold one copy, and everybody in town has a copy because they have photocopied that one book that you sold, right? And that really was one of the most discouraging things you'd ever face, because now it means that essentially all your work has almost gone down the drain. That's what it meant. And that is why you normally see, like now, this book on mediation and moderation, you not get a hard copy for it. Even for people that are in Kenya and in Nakuru, there's no hard copy anywhere. So that I am sure if you get this one copy, then, it's one copy you've sold to one person and does it. So having said that, I'm still trying to see whether the challenge that I faced, whether there's another way of mitigating that for printed copies. As of now, that is still a challenge, right? As of now, that's still a challenge. So I'm just hoping maybe as time goes by, better technology will come up and things like that. But the challenge essentially is mass reproduction of the same book, where now, you feel the time you spent, then you're not able maybe to recoup on the same. And that's why anything that I normally, sort of produce, normally is going to be an e-copy, where now I am sure you sell it to one person, it stays with that one person, and so on. But Mahama, I know maybe the challenge, the particular challenge that you face. I'm just trying to, because I think maybe at some point we had this conversation, I'm trying just to find out whether there is any other way around that particular issue. And I'm hopeful that maybe as time goes by, a solution would emerge.
Thank you so much, Rob. I really appreciate you.
You're welcome. Yeah. So I don't know whether there is any other issue, any other concern we might have. Good. For those of you who could have joined us for the first time and maybe they don't have my WhatsApp number, they can be able to type it there and members can be able to pick. Otherwise, for me, is to wish each one of you the very best in this weekend. Enjoy the rest of the weekend and let's keep on engaging. I hope to meet each one of you as we undertake the course. So enjoy the rest of the afternoon and goodbye.
Thank you, Prof. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prof. Goodbye.
Someone is asking whether the e-copy requires an e-reader. No, it doesn't require any software. No, just something you're able to access normally. It doesn't require you to purchase anything. Good. Do enjoy the rest of the afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Bless you.
Bye, Nosia.
Hi.
Bye, everyone.
we are getting together during Prof session. Oh dear.
Prof,
Yes.
Prof, can I get your email, please, madam?
Okay. So my email address is also there.
Your email.
Yes, I've typed it on the chat function. I don't know whether you can see it. Okay.
But
Okay,
Prof, you always send us messages. Isn't it the same email? Your email is different.
No, it's the same email.
Okay.
It's the same email.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.